My name is Maze Marshall. I'm a 48-year-old paralyzed veteran, and I live in Montgomery, Alabama. 25 years ago, on March 11, 1987, I fell approximately 40 to 60 feet from a helicopter while stationed in Korea. For most people, they often ask, well, why did you join the Army? Why did you want to be a soldier? Well, all my life, that's all I dreamed of doing. Most people dream of being doctors, lawyers, or other professions. For me, it was soldiering. Well, once my accident occurred, I was married at the time. I remember being in the hospital in Seoul, Korea, and they called my ex-wife and they told her what had happened. They put her on the phone with me. And she told me, she said, don't worry, we're going to get through this together. Well, I hung my hopes on that. And it took them probably 3 days to medevac me back to the States. And they medevaced me back to Tuskegee, Alabama, to the VA Medical Center. Well, a week had passed now, and I hadn't seen my wife, hadn't heard from my wife. I called friends and family. No one else seemed to know where she was. That week turned into 2 weeks. That 2 weeks turned into a month. And by now, reality had set in. She was gone. My wife had basically abandoned me. But here I am, just a kid, paralyzed from waist down. Wife has abandoned me. What am I going to do? I was released from Tuskegee VA rehab facility, and I had to return to Fort Hood, Texas. That was my last duty station before leaving for Korea. Once I got there, reality really set in. You see, this was before the Americans with Disabilities Act. So there weren't any accessible rooms or wheelchair ramps or curb cuts, none of the good stuff that we experience now. And I'll never forget when I got to the Holiday Inn to check in, the gentleman at the counter seriously looked at me and said, would you like a room on the first floor or the second floor? And I'm looking at him from my wheelchair like, wow, you can't be serious right now. So I didn't go off, I just politely told him the first floor. When I got into my room, everything was okay, I could reach everything. However, the bathroom was a serious problem for me. I couldn't get my chair through the door, wasn't wide enough. So I had to think, what am I going to do? I called the front desk and requested extra towels. And I laid them out and made a path from me to the toilet. And luckily for me, the toilet was right next to the sink. So I was able to pull myself up on that toilet and prop myself up on the sink and take care of my personal hygiene. That was my first dose of reality in life in a wheelchair. My second was when I got to my attorney's office. And this man had been practicing law for 30 plus years. And he looked at me and he said, son, you're the worst case I've ever had in all these years of practicing law. He said, the first thing that I found out, you're in about $22,000 and some change worth of debt. And you have to file for divorce. So these were two major life-changing events that had to take place. He said, your divorce will be due to abandonment. So I'll run an ad in the local newspaper for 30 days. On the 31st day, the judge will sign off on it. And if she doesn't respond in that time, once he signs off on it, you'll be divorced. He said, your bankruptcy, it's going to stay on your record for 7 years. So from now till then, your credit basically doesn't exist. Well, I took it with a grain of salt. I had to do what I had to do. I returned back to Alabama, to Fort Rucker. That's where the Army medically retired me. And I lived in Ozark, Alabama. Once I got in Ozark and got situated, I found an apartment. It wasn't quite accessible, but I made it work. And it was based on my income, which I thought, and I was told, that my income would return to what it was, which was about $1,500 a month at the time. Well, I was mistaken. My income went from $1,500 a month to $636 a month. Out of that $636 a month, I still had to pay my rent and basic utilities. By the time I paid all that, I had, on a good month, $100 left to my name. The county was, blessing me with $10 worth of food stamps, so I really can't complain. I would take that $10 and go to the store, and I was able to buy a loaf of bread, a package of souse meat, a 5-pound bag of Skittles, and a gallon of water. That took up the $10 of food stamps. That $100 I told you about I had for a month left, I would have to find someone, and find is the operative word, because normally I would run into people and ask them if they would run an errand for me, and they would always look at me and say, "Yeah, Maze, I'll be right back." Well, the majority of them I have yet to see to this day. But the ones that would, they would go up and buy 2 for $1 cheeseburgers. And I would cut both of the cheeseburgers in half. I would eat one half for breakfast. Depending on my hunger, I could make it to evening to eat the other half. And I would do the same thing with the burger the next day. Well, for 2 or 3 days following that, I would go without just to make my money stretch. This went on for 5 years. During that time, it was just the Lord that showed me I had a talent for throwing. Javelin, shot put, and discus. So I picked up wheelchair sports in the interim. Now, mind you, that $100 a month that I was getting and, living off of, it wouldn't take care of my expenses of competing. But there again, I was blessed again. You see, Fort Rucker is the home of Army aviation. That's where they train all the pilots and all the aviation workers for the Army. And they have to have projects in the community that they take up. And thankfully to God, I was one of those projects that they took up. And they would raise money for me to go and compete, myself and another able-bodied individual. Well, my story culminates really in a good way. You see, after 5 years of living like that, I met then Secretary of Veterans Affairs, Jesse Brown. He was the first African-American Secretary of Veterans Affairs under President Clinton. I met him at the airport here in Montgomery, just on a whim. He was a presidential cabinet member, and there was no Secret Service to be found. It was him and another gentleman. This was on a Friday evening, about 6 o'clock in the evening. And the reason I recognized him, because in the VA, there's 2 pictures that are up at all times: the Commander-in-Chief and the Secretary of Veterans Affairs. So I had seen this man's picture over 1,000 times, and he was standing right next to me. Well, you would think after suffering like that, I would have so much anger and frustration. But God is a good God. He caused a peace to go over me. And I was able to talk to this man in a very concise and respectful way and tell him what my issues were. And he just looked at me, and he became visibly angry and upset. He said, "What has the VA said to you?" I said, "Sir, for 5 years, I've been getting form letters signed by different ones at the VA." He couldn't believe it. He asked the gentleman with him to take down my name and contact information. He was in town because that Monday, he was supposed to have a set-up press conference and photo shoot at the VA regional office here in Montgomery. But he had relatives that lived in Selma, Alabama, about 80 miles away, and he wanted to visit them that weekend. So he looked at me and said, "I want you to be at the VA Monday morning." I said, "Yes, sir, I'll be there." Well, needless to say, that was one of the longest weekends of my life. Monday finally rolled around, and I can remember it like yesterday. When I arrived at the regional office, remember all those letters I told you that were signed by different ones? A passage of scripture came to mind where it speaks of the Lord making your enemies your footstools. Well, all those people that signed those different form letters were meeting me and greeting me at the door, asking me if I wanted some coffee, donuts, and the like. And, I declined. I was more nervous than anything. I couldn't eat. So finally the hour comes and Secretary Brown walks in and he greets everyone. It's about 20 veterans and numerous media outlets. And he looks at everyone and he says, "Good morning." He said, "I'm glad you all are here, but I'd like to speak to Mr. Marshall first." And he and I went in a little small room, and he reclined in the chair and threw his feet up on the desk. And he looked at me, he said, "Now, you're getting your Social Security, right?" I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Okay, I'm having a news conference at 1 o'clock. I'd like for you to be there." I said, "Okay, I'll be there." That time rolled around pretty slowly. He went through the 20 other veterans that was set up to receive stuff from him. He handed out computers and, keys to homes and scholarships and the like. And he saved my story for last. He had done his research over the weekend. And he got up and he told people, along with then Senator Terry Everett, of how I had suffered those many years. And he offered me a public apology on behalf of the president all the way down to the citizens of the United States. And he gave me a check for $236,947.60. That was my back pay. Well, it was a good thing. I only had $20 to my name, and it was the 21st of the month. Needless to say, that was a blessing. Well, I told you this story because it's something that I really want you to hear. My story is one of many in this country, of how good God is. But I think we need a refresher. You see now we've come to a point in our country where paralyzed veterans like myself and other disabled veterans across this country are really feeling like we don't matter. The suffering we go through continually. The ones that are in Afghanistan and Iraq right now. It hurts. We've had a faction in this country that have created an environment of division. We freely elect our leaders. But for some reason, with the election of President Barack Obama, re-election even. We have become so divisive, and it's not based on his policies or politics. It's simply based on his race. And you may say, no, Maze, we're not there. We're far down the road from that. But we really aren't. I want you to think about several things. Has there ever been a time when we had a president duly elected by the people, where the opposing faction held a meeting the night before his inauguration and took it upon themselves to say, we're going to do everything within our power to make sure he's a one-term president. I can't remember such a meeting. I have numerous friends that have majored in minor in history. They have no knowledge of any such meetings. Remember Gore and Bush Jr. the first time? Remember how we had to go through all of those ballots with swinging chads, all of that foolishness, and it went all the way to the United States Supreme Court. And there were millions of us that were just appalled and basically pissed because there's no way we felt that Bush should have been the president, especially when the Supreme Court decided that, and not we the people. But what did we do? We licked our wounds, and we moved on. But now, because of this environment of race, we have allowed ourselves to be caught up in foolishness such as secession from the Union. Really? Where would you go? The majority of those crying out for this. Have you ever been to a foreign country? Do you really know what being poor and in need really is? I think not. Because I've been there. And I've seen poor people, not poor people, but poor people. People that had nothing. And the cavalry wasn't coming. But here, we don't have as much of that. Here, you can get help. Now everybody that's jumping up, talking about we have abuse of entitlements. Is Social Security and Medicare an entitlement? No. We all work every day. And we pay into Social Security. And Medicare. That's not an entitlement. You're getting back what you put in. We talk about welfare. You know, it's actually some people in our country that need it. What we don't talk about is corporate welfare. Look at all the billions of dollars our country pays out to corporations. Let's just say the oil companies. Let's just take an example. For an example. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm paying $3.19 right now per gallon for gas. And I'm sure you are too. And a lot of you a lot more. And they're making billions a year. Do they really need the U.S. government to give them more money so they can stay in business? No, they don't. All of this revolves around the same faction of people that tried to buy this election. The little people, they didn't want our voices to be heard. They did not want the re-election of the first African President, Barack Obama, to go like it did. They told us. Remember what they said? Oh. This is too close to call. We'll be up all night. We may not know the results to the next day. It's too close. But that wasn't the case. But that wasn't the case, was it? Not only did the president win the electoral college, he got the majority of the popular vote. This voting count beat out his first election against McCain. Tell me, what has this man done that is so extreme that we can't get in lockstep and march behind him? I assure you, history will make those against him look like fools. Think back. Things were so bad when he got elected the first time. That President Bush invited not only him, but a team of his economic advisors to the White House. Special meetings. So they could get a handle on this economy. We weren't on a cliff. We had fallen off the cliff. On the other side, and we're rushing to the bottom. Now, people like to say, well, he didn't do any of the stuff that he promised. That's not true. Think back. Don't have short-term memory loss. He had to stop the bleeding, if you will, before he could do anything that he wanted to do to help this country, and to keep his campaign promises. Look at us now. We're fiscally sound basis. The economist said before the election, whoever is president next will see economic boom. Well, if that would have been Governor Romney, that boom wouldn't have lasted. The boom happened because of President Obama and what he did. You know, I'm a paralyzed veteran. I wouldn't care if the person that comes up with the cure for paralysis was polka dot in color. Makes me no difference. I'd be thankful to whoever it is. Male, female, black or white. It's 2012, folks. Don't make the sacrifices of your neighbors, those disabled veterans that wave the flags for. You tell us for our service. Well, thank us for our service by falling in lockstep behind this president and supporting his policies. Do we agree on everything he says and does? No. But in our country, that's the beauty of it. We can agree to disagree, and be civil about it. So if you don't remember anything else that I've said, it's not what happens to you. It's what you do about it. Get behind this man. This is our duly elected leader of the free world. And trust me, the world is watching. For real, I didn't ramble and bunch of bullshit. Okay.